Morata, il destro, bene per Dybala, sinistro, gol!
Lewandowski, Ball rein damit in die Mitte, Schieber mit dem Kopf, Reus, quer, Linie, Tor, Golazo de Cristiano Ronaldo para el Real Madrid.
Il est passé Lucas, il est passé, il va tenir ce ballon, le remettre dans la... Quel but extraordinaire d'André Di Maria.
Hello and welcome to the Football Hipsters podcast. It's a Monday again. We're back in your ears. My name is Kris. I am your host and I'm joined by the usual crew. I have John, I have Tom, I have Drew. Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening, Kris. Evening, everyone.
Evening.
Hello. Drew the duck. I'm glad. It's been a while. We're here to talk all things European football. We've even spliced in a couple of the other leagues this week, so it's been quite a while since we've shown them some love. So let's get straight on with the show. We will start, as we always do every week, with our Mighty 90. Okay, I am going to get the Mighty 90s underway this week by going to John. So, John, it's Borussia Mönchengladbach. Things have not been going well recently. Let's find out how things went this week as I start your time now.
Well, it's good news. We finally got a win. I sound more excited, but it was kind of expected as we were playing Werder Bremen. We absolutely thumped them, though, 5-1, which was the best part about it. We had goals from Lars Stindl at the start with Ahmed Dahoud, who absolutely ran the show. He was superb in the game, running clean through midfield, little square ball to Thorgan Hazard, who was nice to see him back in the team. Squared it across for Stindl to score. Then Anders Christensen scored 2. Good run for Fabian Johnson into Raphael, some nice intricate play in the box. Dahoud again pulled it across, and Christensen at the back post looked more like a striker than a centre back. He got his second goal from a corner from really bad marking from Werder Bremen. We did give away a penalty, and it was a penalty, it was the correct decision, and unsurprisingly Pizarro did finish it. But then Stindl was felled in the other box, so we got a penalty of our own. Raphael stepped up to score that, but the last goal of the 5 was really the pick of the bunch. Havard Norvite did the sort of in-step David Luiz style slap shot thing from distance, that sort of David Luiz free kick style, but it was in open play. Really, really good goal. So back to winning ways, very important. Good morale for the team. Next game we're away to Hamburg on Sunday, and we're now 6th in the table, 1 point off Champions League qualifier and 3 off the automatic place. So things starting to look up, hopefully.
Happy days. Nice of you to come back with a win. That's good news. Good news. Right, let's go back to Austria because they're back out of retirement. Well, I say retirement, out of the winter break is what of course I mean.
Felt like retirement.
It did, didn't it? It's been a while. So, Tom, your Mighty 90 to bring us up to speed with how it went at the resumption of the Austrian League. Your time begins now.
Okay, so we got back underway against an away team. Admira was the side we were playing. You saw starts for Soriano. God, it feels good to say that in that game in a competitive sense. Minamino, Berisha and Damaro also got starts. Keita did unfortunately miss out because he still has malaria. The game started well, 21 minutes in. Minamino hitting a shot straight at Seibenhandel, another German name for Drew to murder me with. 8 minutes later, Seibenhandel denied Soriano's volley. And then Soriano selfishly skied a shot where he really should have squared it to Damaro, but I will forgive him. Damaro then showed Soriano how it's done and squared one towards Berisha, who slotted in calmly. But just 1 minute later, Spiridonovic, another great name, had a shot past Valka to level the scores. So at that stage, everything was all set. Who would do it? Who would take the goal to win the game for either team? We all know who I'm going to say. Jonathan Soriano. Schmitz and Schwegler combined really well on the right-hand side. Crossed the ball for Berisha, who brilliantly scuffed it towards Soriano, who calmly slotted into the top right-hand corner. And that's how the game finished. Great 2-1 win. We move on towards a midweek game against Stuttgarts in the Cup, and then we play SV Ried on Saturday in the league. We are sitting top, 2 points clear of Austria Wien, who also won at the weekend. And quickly, by 5 seconds left, go check out a tweet I did about another goal in Austria. It's amazing. Galval's the name.
Cav has the name, goal scoring's the game. Very good. And the most important question of the weekend, was it cold in Austria?
Of course it was.
Good.
It's always cold in Austria.
That's all right then. As long as we know that it's cold, the way of the world is good.
I can report that our past interviewee, Tim Armitage, was out there during the winter. So if you want to know what it was like out there, you can tweet him.
Oh, cheap plug there. Like it.
Yeah.
Like it. And you, of course, can indeed listen to your interview with Tim if you wish to go back through our archives and go to our website. You can see that and hear that and enjoy it. So please do. Right, Drew, your turn. Let's see how final got on. I understand it was quite a big game this weekend. Let's see how you got on, though. Your time begins now.
Honestly, don't want a turn. It didn't end up well, but it's what you would expect. We went to Amsterdam to play Ajax, lost 2-1. I guess the scoreline is respectable. The results are not. Jans Toornstra actually put us up 1-0 in the 13th minute, but Amin Younes responded, made it 1-1 in the 21st. Rashid Libazor got the winner in the 65th, and Nemanja Gudelj actually hit the bar. I'm sorry, he didn't hit the bar. He had a saved penalty 2 minutes later, so it could have been worse. I mean, honestly, I don't expect to beat Ajax ever, but I do expect more from Feyenoord on the whole. And at the moment, we are, if I'm not mistaken, the worst form side in Eredivisie. Not very good at the moment. So, and we've also dropped out of the top 3. We've lost 6 of our last 6. We now sit 2 points behind Heracles, who are in 3rd. Ajax remain 2nd. PSV are in 1st. So I guess my biggest issue with this match is the tactical decisions that Giovanni Van Bronckhorst made. I understand that he wants to go to Ajax and maybe be a little bit more conservative in his play and at the back, but we went with a 4-4-1-1, and both Elliott and Kramer did not get a starting nod. So I don't understand how we expected to get anything done, and neither of those players came on until the 70th minute. And when they came on, he didn't switch his tactics. He stayed with the 4-4-1-1, so I don't know how he's going to get a nip of late equalizer when he doesn't change to more attacking formation. So it's not looking good at the moment. Now we have a bit of a fight to even finish in the top 3, and I'm not confident right now at all. So yeah, there it is.
Oh dear. So not good. I think it's fair to say. And the defeats are racking up at the moment. It's not good in Rotterdam right now. Still, hopefully things get better next week. We can but hope. Right, moving on then. Just me to go, and I shall begin my time now. So this week, Lorient played at home to Montpellier. It was a game at the Moustoir. 9,077 people were there to witness it. A 1-1 draw. Jimmy Cabot and Lindsay Rose got starts. They made their debut for Les Merleux. And they started well, Lorient. They're using the width with Cabot and releasing the likes of Mercanjo and Warris, who were playing through the middle. But it was Montpellier who went closest when Jonas Martin hit the bar from range. And the flashpoint of the match, which kind of changed the match really, was on 37 minutes. Francois Balaguer was sent off for a high boot into the groin area, we'll leave it at that, of Riyad Boudabouz, and it was a fair dismissal. In all truth, I have to be unbiased, unfortunately. So that changed the game. In a minute before half-time, Casimir Ninga's cross split the Lorient defence in half, and Kevin Berrigo finished for 1-0. So it wasn't looking good, but Lorient came back strongly in the second half. It was a very different story, and even with 10 men, they equalised, and it was a debut day goal for Jimmy Cabot. Lovely move between the captain Jouffre and Mesloub. Release Cabot scored bottom corner, lovely. Mukanjo went close late, as did Darbo for Montpellier, and Lecomte was forced into a very good late save, but the draw was a fair result, and that was how it ended in a 1-1 scoreline. Only 2 defeats in 11 at home for Lorient now, who sits 12th in the table on 31 points. And up next is a game against Janzeb's Nantes, and it is indeed a Brittany derby. So there we go. That's how Lorient have got on this week, and that is indeed how all of our hipster teams have got on this week. And as we always say, if you want to know more, just tweet our hipsters, and I'm sure, well, actually, I'm not sure Drew would like to discuss Feyenoord right now, but if he does, the option is there. So thank you.
No.
There you go, as conclusive as it gets. So that's our trip around the Mighty 90. We will now take our usual delve into all things European leagues as we look into this week's World of Football. Right then, we'll start with the stats as we do every week. So let's see what's been going on. Premier League wise, there was a midweek programme and a weekend programme. So these are the total stats. 41 goals in the 20 games. There were 14 clean sheets, 3 red cards, 8 home wins, 6 away wins. In Liga, there was also a midweek programme and a weekend programme. There were 44 goals, 13 clean sheets, 13 red cards, 10 home wins and 6 away wins. In La Liga, just the weekend programme here, 24 goals, 2 clean sheets, 4 red cards, 4 home wins, 3 away wins. In Serie A, again a midweek programme, 44 goals, 10 clean sheets, 7 red cards, 7 home wins, 5 away. And finally in the Bundesliga, just the weekend programme, the 9 matches, 23 goals, 5 clean sheets, 3 red cards, 3 home wins, 3 away wins. And just to have a quick nosy at what's going on in the year to date, a couple of bits and bobs that I pulled out here. So the total goals, the Premier League is still the highest league in Europe with 646 goals. Liga is not the lowest scorers. In fact, that's actually the Bundesliga at the moment, 501. But obviously you have to take into consideration there is less teams in that league. So fairly good average. Clean sheets is another interesting one. Liga has the highest, 110. The lowest, you won't be surprised to know, is indeed the Bundesliga, 69 clean sheets this season. And a stat that I know Tom loves, La Liga is most popular for the draw. 74 draws this season so far in Liga. And that's lowest rate is the Bundesliga again. Only 41 draws in the Bundesliga this season, which is quite amazing, really. And the final one I just want to highlight is the red card stats for the year or season to date. The highest league, once again, Liga, 88 red cards in this season so far. Only 25 in the Bundesliga, and comparing that to the league, 70 in La Liga, 79 in Serie A, which is quite low, I think, and only 53 in the Premier League. So there you go. There's a couple of interesting stats for you just to get your teeth into, and as usual, I'll be keeping you up to date with how things go next week with the stats. Right, let's move on then. And this week we are going to start in Spain. Tom, I'm coming to you as we delve into this week's La Liga. Right then, Tom. So, what's been going on in La Liga? Let's start with the Friday game, Malaga, who you've came across a few times on this podcast, and you've mentioned that they are on an upturn in fortunes. How did they get on at home to Getafe?
They got on very well. They ran out 3-0 winners in the end, and it was a very convincing performance. It's nice to see Malaga doing so well, as we have talked about their recent upturn in form, and it's such a historic club. So it's good to see them back on track. And the rout started early on. Juanpi, laid on by Rosales, ran through, and the poor Getafe defence couldn't do anything. But Juanpi slot past Guita. Guita's a name that does ring a bell. I believe used to be the Valencia goalkeeper. So and then in the 24th minute, Juanpi was then provider, slotted through Charles, who squared the ball to Atsu, the on-loan Chelsea midfielder, who slotted past Guita again for make it 2-0. Moy Gomez had a solitary chance for Getafe and saved by Kameni, and then Rosales deserved a clear penalty. It's where one of those things where a player runs through, clearly blocked off by a defender, but because the ball's ran on so far, it's not normally given. But in my eyes, if you're blocked by a defender in a box, it is a clear penalty. Charles finished the game with an absolutely amazing move, probably the move of the weekend. I've written down the entire commentary of it. So here we go. Boca threw the ball to Recchio, who passed to Kopp, who backheeled it back to Recchio, who passed to Juanpi, who then one touch flicked it to Kopp, who crossed for Charles to finish off brilliantly. So there's my little commentary of the weekend, and yep, that's how it finished.
Good result for Malaga. Good stuff. Good to see them back up, sort of around where you'd expect them to be in La Liga. Certainly not a side that should be anywhere near the bottom. Let's talk about Atletico Madrid against Eibar. I think I'm right in saying that Atletico Madrid have scored more than one goal in a game, and they had to come from behind. What happened?
It was a very uncharacteristic performance. It was a good start though. Correa struck the bar early on, and struck over, sorry, early on, and that's when it sort of went a bit downhill. Saul, who's been one of the better players this season, a bit of poor control at the back, considering they didn't have Felipe Luis and Godin, obviously with the chaos that happened in the game against Barcelona. He allowed Sergio Enrique to nick the ball off him right at the back and square it to Keiko, who then scored his only third goal of the season. He's having a great season, but he's much the provider rather than the scorer. And that's where it finished at half-time. I'm sure Diego Simeone ripped into his team at that point because they certainly came out a different side in the second half. Correa hit the bar early on, and then it was Koke's corner that was headed in by Jimenez, the young Uruguayan centre-back, to level the scores. Just 7 minutes later, another Koke corner found Saul, who redeemed himself with another header to put Atletico in front. And then in the 91st minute, a player who you'd never thought would score, Vieto crossed the ball to that man, Fernando Torres, to slide in and finally score his 100th Atletico Madrid goal. He celebrated with a 100 shirt. You can't imagine how long they must have been holding on to that one for. And he gave it to a fan, so a bit of class there. But it's weird saying that Atletico concede, but without Godin and Felipe Luis, you would expect that.
Yeah, and it's nice to see Fernando get that goal. I mean, he's been much maligned in recent years, recent months, but fair play to him. It's nice to see him get that goal. So good on him. Let's move on then. Levante played host to Barcelona. This was an early kickoff on the Sunday. Levante bottom in all kinds of peril and strife, but they gave a good account of themselves, didn't they? But I think I'm right in saying Barca did get the points in the end.
They did indeed. It was an uncharacteristic game for a top v bottom match, especially when you consider the two teams that were playing. Busquets was on the bench for Barca, given a bit of a rest, and Messi started on the offence with an offside goal, which actually wasn't offside, so Levante spared their blushes early on. Neymar's curling effort was then saved by Diego Marino, who did have a very good game, I must say. But in the 22nd minute, Iniesta released Alba to cross, and it was the unknowing David Navarro who then deflected the shot into his own net. So not a great way to start off the second half of the season. Suarez missed an absolute sitter, so very uncharacteristic for him. I'm using a lot of the words uncharacteristic this weekend. There were some really strange things happening in our Liga. But moving on, Morales struck the post, and then Rakitic was forced an excellent save again from Marino from a corner. Suarez then did score in the 92nd minute to seal all 3 points. Basically, Levante had all their men at the other end of the pitch trying to equalise, and Messi just had to square it to a Suarez who was alone and easily an outside of the boot shot to finesse round the keeper. And that's where it finished. But as you said, Levante, very good performance from them against the top side, and it does bode well for the rest of the season. The only thing that is worrying is they keep putting in these decent performances and they aren't picking up many points. So what you can take from that what you will, but for me, they're still my favourites to go down.
Yeah, I can see why. What about the side that are directly above them, Granada, who played host to Real Madrid on the Sunday night? This was anything but straightforward, but once again, the Galacticos came out on top.
They did indeed, and another game, as I said, with the Barca and top v bottom again, and another good account for the lower league sides. And Ronaldo missed an early chance, and then in the 30th minute, Carvajal gave Benzema an absolutely easy and open goal to start off the scoring. David Barral, a name from the past, forced a good save from Navas, and then Modric had a long range effort also saved, and there's more about him on a long range effort a little bit later, and that was saved by Fernandes. Fernandes then prevented Benzema from scoring a simple chance where he really should have squared it to Ronaldo to make it 2-0. An uncharacteristic Modric then lost the ball in midfield. However, he really wasn't helped by the referee. He sort of got in his way. That allowed Rashina to take the ball, lay it off to El Arabi, and he slotted under Navas to equalise on the 60th minute. Modric was then absolutely redeemed in more ways than one. Took the ball on the outside of the box, leathered it in the top left-hand corner in the 85th minute, saving Real Madrid's blushes, and what a goal. I don't know if you saw it, I'm sure you did, but wow. That's all I can say about it, really.
It was a cracking goal. A goal worthy of winning any game, and certainly saved quite a few betting slips across the country, I would venture to suggest. Not mine. Moving on. Give us the results then from the rest of the weekend of La Liga, including tonight's, and let us know how the table stands.
Yep, so Rayo Vallecano played host to Las Palmas and ran out 2-0 winners. Fedor and Bebe, that's a name from the past. A man I recently heard that was being paid 165,000 a minute on the pitch at Manchester United. Impressive pay. Athletic Bilbao, the game I said to go and watch, probably wasn't the one to watch. Drew out 0-0 with Villarreal. And Aki Williams got a second yellow and was sent off in the 90th minute, and a few minutes later Bonera, 90th minute, 2 yellow cards, and was sent off as well. So a game of red cards rather than goals. Sporting Gijón 1-1 with Deportivo. Johnny 32 minutes and Luis Alberto equalising for Depor in the 41st minute, and that's how it finished. Real Betis 1-0 Valencia. Ruben Castro in the 49th minute really piling on the pressure for Gary Neville, and Gaia got sent off in the 85th minute. Another word I'm going to use again, uncharacteristic of the defender. That was also 2 yellows in the match. Celta Vigo ran out 1-1 with Sevilla. The guy I said on our transfer pod to not do so well managed to get sent off on his debut. Fazio, the ex-Spurs player, on loan, 25th minute, 2 yellow cards in 25 minutes. Quite incredible. And then Carrizo did manage to put Sevilla up in front in the 43rd minute, and then Bovu, a name I'm sure you're very familiar with, Chris, 64 minutes equalised. Although I did like the way the Spanish commentator pronounced his name and said it Bavway, which was very nice, I thought. Not so nice was tonight's result for me. Espanyol sort of lost at home to Real Sociedad by 5-0. Jonafas got 2. Vela then got 1. Michel, this is a hard name, Oyarzabal, or Zabal, not really sure where that one is. And Reyes, the defensive midfielder, also got 1. Ruben Pardo got 3 assists in that game, quite impressively. And at half-time, when it was 2-0, Arlauskis, the on-loan goalkeeper from Watford, was substituted by Constantin and brought on Pau Lopez, the youngster, but he then conceded 3 goals. However, I must say that the 3 goals he did concede, he couldn't really do much about because of the poor defending from Espanyol. So in terms of the table, no changes at the top. Barca top, Atleti second, Real Madrid third, Villarreal fourth. Sevilla didn't manage to get any points to gain on them in fifth. And at the bottom, I've got to go for the bottom 10 because it is just so close. So Levante 20th on 17, Granada on 20, Las Palmas then 21, Espanyol 22, Sporting Gijón 22, but they have a game in hand against Barcelona, so probably no change there. In 15th, Rayo on 23, Valencia now 14th on 25 points. Betis climbed above them, going on 25 points, but on goal difference. Getafe on 26 points, and Real Sociedad in 11th on 27.
It's all getting rather close, and we will touch on Mr. Neville in our question section later on, so we'll be prepared for that. Mm-hmm. And how Celta Vigo didn't win that game against Sevilla is beyond me. They absolutely battered Sevilla.
Even with Bavway.
Yeah, Bavway, yes. Although, to be fair to Claudio Bovu, he's been that bad in France the last 6 months that a change of name would probably be good for him, as would be a change of identity. And I did like the fact that he broke out the old somersault celebration for his goal, which he's a good little player, but he needed that move. He needed the move. We shall see how that goes. Has there been any news? Obviously, there's no transfers now, which thank God. Any news in La Liga this week that's worth bringing up?
The only real news that I could find really was Gary Neville coming out and saying that he will not resign, but as we said in the questions, we'll cover that a bit more in depth. I've got some Copa del Rey results from the midweek. Barcelona did beat Valencia, as I'm sure everyone knows, 7-0. Suarez got 4, Messi got 3. Very convincing performance, more pressure on Neville. And Sevilla ran out 4-0 winners against Celta. So I think next week when the reverse fixtures come around, we can already see who's going to be in the final.
Think you might be right. Yes, think you might be right there. Super. Okay. And finally, is there a game, hopefully not a 0-0 this week, please? Any game you think might be worth a look this weekend?
Yeah, I've had to pick 2. First one's Villarreal against Malaga. It's just an interesting game because the form Malaga a win and how Villarreal are sitting in 4th with a bit of a gap. So it might be one for Malaga to get an away win. And also Valencia against Espanyol. You've really got to say that Valencia should win this match. So that's why I picked that one as well. Yes,
that's could be make or break for Mr. Neville, and we shall see. Right, okay, thank you, Tom. I'll be back with you for some questions later on, but I'm now going to turn my attention to Drew as we venture into this week's Bundesliga. Right then, Drew, let's start with Schalke. Andre Breitenreiter's men have had a home tie against a pretty out-of-sorts looking Wolfsburg coming into this game. Did it go to form, and how was the game?
Oh, well, it was beyond out of sorts. Wolfsburg they're in a bit of trouble. Schalke ran up 3-1 winners. Goals from Klaas and Huntelaar. Johannes Geis was an absolutely fantastic free kick. If you haven't seen it, you should probably go do it. And then Alessandro Schopf had the third goal in the 87th minute. He came on and replaced Huntelaar. He replaced Choupo-Moting late on, actually. As regards to the performance, it was even from a statistical standpoint, and Wolfsburg played their usual possession game, but they just were woeful in front of a goal. Minimal. I think they registered 2 shots on frame out of 14 chances all match long, and it's really starting to show, well, continue to show rather, that without someone like Bastos in the 11, they're struggling. Hecking actually went with a 4-1-4-1. He actually gave Nicholas Bentner the start. He put Max Kruse in midfield alongside Draxler, and it did not work out. Kruse was awful. Bentner was awful, but Bentner lasted to the latter stage of the match. I think he lasted until the 80th minute. But I think his lackluster performance shows why Hecking just won't select him. And people were crying out for maybe Wolfsburg to use a traditional number 9 instead of using name escapes me. Wow, I can't think today. I'm sorry, everybody. Oh, Schürrle. They're using Schürrle as a number 9 a lot lately, and he's not a traditional number 9, as we remember from his time at Chelsea. He plays more wide right, can also play wide left, but he's been playing as number 9, and a lot of Wolfsburg fans wanted to see an actual hold-up player that's similar to Bastos to maybe sort of settle them in the final third, and Benton did not do himself any favors, so I'd imagine that he's going to go right back to using Schürrle there instead. Schalke, they played very, very well. The worst player for the day was Max Meyer, and even he only had a decent performance. But actually, another shout to Junior Kaisara. He's been giving himself a little name on the right-hand side of the defense. He provided 2 assists. He got the well, at least Who Scores says that he had the best performance of the day. But Schalke looked much improved at the moment, and actually right now they sit in 4th, and they're only 2 points back of Hertha. So things looking up and up for them. They've won 4 out of the last 6, so positive result for them. Wolfsburg dropped down to 8th now. They've still winless in their last 6. 4 of those are losses, and they're in some trouble as well. So.
2 sides going in very different directions, and you do wonder if potentially Wolfsburg have got focus on Champions League. We shall see. Talk to me about Eintracht Frankfurt, who were at home to Stuttgart. Did Alex Meyer get on the score sheet, and did Stuttgart continue this winning run?
Both happened in the way you described. Alex Meyer did get a goal. Stuttgart ran out 4-2 winners away from home, and again, you can't say enough about things that are going on at Stuttgart under Jürgen Kramny since his appointment and replacement. They're doing excellently well. It ended up 4-2. Christian Gentner opened the scoring on the 27th minute. Darren Didavi scored on the 46th. Then Meyer made it 2-1 on 52. Georg Niedermeyer scored in the 65th, and Philip Kostic in the 76th put it to bed. Zabalic Hucci scored in stoppage time, but obviously that wouldn't be enough. As the performance, Stuttgart were on the front for basically the entire match, but it was open. Stuttgart also still happy to play that counter-attacking style that they traditionally played before Kramny came in. But as he said in the post-match, and the players have mirrored his comments, that there's a renewed confidence in themselves and in the manager and in the structure that's going on since he's come in, and it shows in their form since he's come. Timo Werner didn't do well. I know I always like to have a little Timo Werner watch. He was wasteful once again, didn't do well, but Gentner was fantastic in the center. Had a goal, had an assist. The Davi did well, though he was sent off after 2 bookings. He did get a goal, like I said before. Rupp did well on the right. Philip Kostic did excellent on the left, and he's now making another name for himself. Everyone talks about Didavi at that club, but Kostic quietly has had a very, very good season. Niedermeyer was a rock at the back, and it's just an all-around good, consummate performance from them, and they keep on the up and up, and actually they're now up to 12th. So excellent for them. They're now 5 points clear of Werder Bremen, who are in 16th. They've now won 4 out of the last 6. The other 2 are draws, so very, very positive stuff from them coming forward.
Quite the turnaround, it would be fair to say. Good for them. Fair play to them. Good to watch as well. Let's talk about Hertha Berlin and Borussia Dortmund. I'm amazed that you'll be able to get a conversation out of this game. I watched it. It wasn't the best spectacle.
It was not.
But,
it's not conversation. I think it's just more of I wanted to mention just because of the implications of it, I suppose.
Yes.
It was a 0-0. There were not as many chances, but you have to tip your hat to, again, how well Hertha defended as a team, and especially Landkamp and Brooks did very well at the back. The spine was strong once again, but Dortmund was a little bit off color. Honestly, Aubameyang put in his worst performance of the season, hands down. Marco Reus didn't do much better. Weigl and Gundogan did well as usual. Mkhitaryan was a standout performer for the club, yet again, apart from Socrates and Mats Hummels. But I think at the end of the day, both teams would be happy with a point. Probably more so Dortmund. Hertha, honestly, with that result, they are only they're only 2 points clear of Schalke now. So a little bit of that breathing space has sort of dissipated. So they'll want to get back to winning ways. They've drawn 3 straight. So maybe they're a little bit off form in front of goal at the moment. Despite that, and this is where that 3-3 draw is going to come back to bite them, because that should have been a guaranteed 3 points, and they could use that extra 2-point buffer. But honestly, again, if Hertha can show up against the bigger clubs like this and still put in a performance and blank Dortmund, and this is the first time Dortmund has been shut out all season, you have to think that on the strength of it, by the course of the end of the season, you really do have to keep them in the conversation for a top 4 finish. So good result, I guess, for both clubs considering, and both clubs look to move on from there.
Good result overall, I suppose, given that, as you say, given it's second against third. We shall see how they both finish. Finishing up then, Hoffenheim. They hosted Darmstadt. Hoffenheim in all sorts of bother, all sorts of trouble, out of form against the Darmstadt side. It's a bit of a tongue twister, who most people thought would struggle. So how did this one end up?
Darmstadt traveled to Hoffenheim and won 2-0. So I guess I'll just mention briefly where they stand before I go into it. Darmstadt are back up to 11th. Hoffenheim still sit in relegation. They're still sitting in 17th, tied on points with Hanover. Still struggling to score goals. They have the second worst return of goals in the league with only 18 out of 20, so less than a goal a game is not going to see them climb out of relegation anytime soon. And to be fair, they were completely outplayed. Credit to Darmstadt. Aitaksu and Slobodan Bregovic both put in for me, I guess, man of the match performances. They're absolute rocks at the back. But Hoffenheim didn't really threaten too much. I mean, they really. Andreas Kramaric and Hamad and Schmid didn't really do all that much to truly threaten. Kevin Volland played pretty okay, but Darmstadt were happy to counter all match long. You can't imagine that they're going to try to go to Hoffenheim, possess the ball. They only had 36% possession. And the pass success was 57%, so they were happy to just win the ball back and counter. And the numbers show that. I think combined they won 56 total aerials and tackles throughout the match, which is absolutely superb from a defensive standpoint. So they win the ball, they play a pass out and hope for the best, and it worked. And for a club like that, where you maybe lack the bigger names and the bigger talents in a league that's filled with it, you have to rely on what works. And honestly, when you go to any club that has better players on paper, you look to counter them all match long, and it works for them. So it's a formula that has seen them avoid being in the bottom 3 all season long. So they're going to look to roll with it, and it's working at the moment.
Yeah, a bit of an effort, Oliver Baumann in the Hoffenheim goal in that game as well, having watched a lot of it. Yeah, not good. Give us the rest of the results and indeed the table.
Well, as John said, Gladbach thumped Werder Bremen 5-1. Where else? Hanover lost 1-0 to Mainz, and more on a little bit from Mainz news after I'm done with the results. Ingolstadt beat Augsburg 2-1, ending Augsburg's run of form. Bayer Leverkusen and Bayern Munich held each other to a 0-0 draw, which is probably surprising to quite a few people. Hamburg and Cologne drew 1-1, and then that's the rest of the results. The table: Bayern still sit top on 53 points. Dortmund second on 45. Hertha, as I said before, third on 35. Schalke fourth on 33. Bayer Leverkusen and Gladbach are tied for fifth on 32. Bremen 16th on 19 rather. Hoffenheim 17th on 14, and Hanover 18th on 14. So there you go.
Close.
And match to look out for?
Yes, far away.
Stuttgart versus Hertha. I think that's going to be quite a tasty fixture, actually. Hertha, with the way they're defending, Stuttgart look regenerated under Kramny, but are excellent in the counter-attack leaders. So I think it's going to be a very, very entertaining fixture, so for sure.
Tune in. And we should also mention there are DFB Pokal fixtures this week as well. Leverkusen, Bremen, Stuttgart, Dortmund, Heidenheim, Hertha, and Bochum, Bayern. So, yeah, always get that one wrong. Any news as well in the Bundesliga this week?
Not too much, but the biggest one is Yoshinori Muto is out for quote unquote several weeks. He tore his lateral knee ligaments, and that's more than several weeks. That's probably a month or two. That's a huge issue for them as they're really trying to fight for the fifth or sixth place. They're only 2 points back of both Bayer and Gladbach, so not what they wanted to see. Missing their striker, so it's going to be our Gen Zeb's Eunice Smiley is going to have to pick up the pace a little bit, and players like Yaris and Pera are going to pick up some of the workload as well. That's a huge loss for them, and it could definitely see them struggle moving forward.
Yeah, Eunice Smiley, who did indeed stay after all in the January window,
Yes.
so we shall see where he ends up in the summer. So I do think he will move on. Okay, well that draws the line nicely under the Bundesliga, so thank you as always, Drew. I know we've had a couple of questions for you later on as well, so we will be back to you shortly. Right, this is the part where I hand my baby over to John and let him do his thing as we take a trip into this week's French football and Ligue 1.
Right, starting in Liga this week, Kris. Best place to start off was Lyon getting a win, 3-0, and a really, really good goal from Christophe Jallet. Stunner.
Yes, not the two words you normally put together, I think it's fair to say. But no, he hadn't scored in nearly a year. And then he popped up with a centre-forwards finish that Alexandre Lacazette would have been happy with. And this is a really good result for Lyon. Has to be said, in no small part, was helped by Angers going down to 10 men as early as the 16th minute. Mangani was sent off and it was plain sailing from there on in. But Lyon were in front before that. As you say, Jallet's goal curled delightfully in from the left-hand edge of the penalty area into the far corner. Terrific finish. And then second goal from Rachid Gazal right after half-time. This was literally seconds after the restart, which kind of killed the game as a contest. And a late goal from Corentin Tolisso, who put in an exceptional performance in the midfield, and more on him a little bit later in Team of the Week. But he was superb. Lyon really needed this. It's 3-0 victories in the space of a week, which we haven't said for a while, and Lyon really do need to get some momentum behind them to try and charge back up the table. And it's in 11 games, Lyon have only scored one goal away from home or less. So it's good for them to see, or it's the first time in 11 games, I should say. It's good for them to actually sort of see that they're getting some goals. On the flip side, though, Angers 5 defeats in 7 now. Just wondering, maybe that bubble might have burst. It's let's be honest, it's great to see them even in the top half, let alone second place as they have been for so long. But I think now it's probably fair to say that they might be slipping down the table.
Yeah, I mean they've exceeded expectations so far. So although the results are disappointing, I'm sure they won't be too concerned just yet. Next, let's get on to our second favourite team from Corsica. How did Bastia get on at home against Troyes?
They got another win. And they really, I mean, they're such a strange side, Bastia. They haven't really got any particular stars apart from Floyd Aite, who once again was the architect and chief in destroying Troyes on the day. This game saw 3 red cards, more on that in a second, but Bastia running out 2-0 victors in the game. Floyd Aite scoring the first on 10 minutes and a penalty 8 minutes from time sealed the points. It's a very big victory for Bastia. They're relying on their home form massively. They've won their last 4 home games without conceding a goal, which is absolutely crucial. I mean, they need to be winning the home games because, to be perfectly honest, they're pretty useless away from home. And obviously the Corsican area for them is a huge bonus when they're receiving sides to their tight ground. So hopefully they will rely on this home form to stay up. They did, however, lose yet another player. Their disciplinary record is shocking. They've now had 5 red cards in the last 5 games. It's beyond bad. This time it was the goalkeeper Laka who was sent off. It was helped mainly, though, by Troyes also having 2 players sent off. So if you fancy a bet on a red card, a Bastia fixture is probably one to stick your money down on. But it's a crucial victory for Bastia. Doesn't really change anything from Troyes, who probably are doomed. I will touch on something that's happened with them in the news section. But Troyes remain bottom and pretty hopeless. But Bastia, with those 4 wins at home in the last couple of games, have escaped the relegation mire for the time being.
Could be saying Tarata Trois. Now next, how did Danny's Khan get on at home?
Well, they lost. They lost, and it wasn't a particularly exciting or how should I put this? It wasn't a particularly exciting or watchable game. That's probably a good way of putting it. But Khan have dropped off the pace a little bit in recent weeks, and a goal for Bifuma, who Tom will know a bit about, who came in the January transfer window. He scored his goal, and Prince Oniyange, I love that name. He got the second on 63 minutes, and it's a massive result for Ram, who have been really struggling down the bottom end of the table, but they've won 2 games in a row now. They beat Angers 2-1 last week, and those 2 victories are just so crucial. I mean, it's very tight. I'll touch on the league table in a minute. It's very tight down the bottom end in Liga, and for a team like Ram, it's a huge 3 points, and to win away from home. I don't think many people would have had them down to go to Khan and get anything, much less a victory. So it's a huge result for them. Danny won't be happy, but they will be delighted.
Yeah, good result for them. So the last game I really wanted to touch on was the big game of the weekend, Le Classique, Marseille against PSG. Not as exciting as previous ones, as Marseille aren't fighting for the title this year, but still a very big game nonetheless.
It is, yes, a massive game. The atmosphere, huge. We should say that there was not an amusing story, but the Marseille supporters were stoning what they thought was the PSG bus on arrival. It turned out to be some Chinese tourists. That didn't really work out too well, so that's unfortunate. But Marseille were good. I mean, they were really good. They were behind early on Zlatan, who else, turning in Maxwell's cross after just 2 minutes, and it did appear that it was going to be a real damp squib. But Remy Cabella decided to be a footballer again, which is nice because he's got a huge amount of talent, and his move to Marseille has rejuvenated him. He scored a terrific individual goal for the equaliser on 25 minutes, and Marseille for large spells were the better side in that first half, but as PSG do, they're a machine. They just keep grinding on, and my man Angel Di Maria popped up with the winning goal on 71 minutes. A lovely sort of move on the edge of the box involving Zlatan, and into the bottom corner it went, and PSG got the points. PSG have won the last straight 8 Classiques now, which is a record. And I wanted to give you just a couple of stats on PSG. They are frightening. We all know how good they are, but just to sort of put things in a little bit of perspective for you, if you look at this date, which when this was released will be the 9th of February, in the last calendar year, dating back to the 9th of February in 2014, they've scored 108 goals in that period of time, and this is only in Liga, and they've scored 176 in the past 2 years since this date. So, I mean, that in itself is quite staggering. Also, to throw in a couple, they scored a total of 83 goals last season when they won the league. They've already got 63 this season. They've only conceded 36. They conceded 36 goals last season. They've only conceded 12 to date this season, which is also just staggering. Their goal difference is now plus 51. Yes, that's 51. And they've scored 2 or more goals in 19 of the last 25 games. I mean, it's fair to say that although, yes, the league is heavily weighted in their favour due to the financial sort of power they have, but those stats are just very, very impressive. So PSG march on. Marseille will take comfort in the fact that they did play very, very well, but no points, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's almost as if PSG have no competition in that league. I would never want to say that.
Probably fair right now, yeah, probably fair.
Just wanted to give us the other results from this weekend's games.
Yes, so elsewhere we had there's a full midweek programme which I won't go into sort of full depth on, but I will just pull out a couple of highlight results. Lorient did succumb to PSG, as you might have guessed, 3-1. Rennes lost on the Thursday game to St Etienne 1-0. Other highlight results, I mentioned obviously Lyon, they won 3-0, and Nantes pulling out a 3-1 victory over Gazelle. They were probably the highlight fixtures. Also Marseille winning away at Montpellier, so that was the midweek. From the weekend's fixtures though, we had Monaco. 10-man Monaco beating Nice 1-0. Bakayoko with a late winner. Nabil Dirar being sent off in that game for leaning into the referee with his head. Not his proudest moment. Gazalek, they're still hanging on, bless them. 0-0 draw at home to Guingamp this weekend. They will feel a little bit disappointed though. Guingamp were down to 10 from the 10th minute onwards, but they couldn't get the goal, so 0-0 there. Toulouse not 0-0, nothing happened. Terrible game. Sorry, John Zeb. Lille 1, Rennes 1 was the Sunday game. First goal in Lille colours for Eder, equalised by last minute penalty from Dembele, and Sofiane Boufal sent off. Tut. And we also saw probably the game of the weekend, actually, and there's a quick stat for this. Bordeaux, St Etienne, it finished 4-1 to St Etienne. Don't think anyone saw this coming. It was 2-1 after 9 minutes. Payot and Tanan was the first goals for St Etienne. Yambare got one back for Bordeaux. Late goals from Sutherland and Rowe, and a red card for Diabate late on secured the victory for St Etienne. Just a very quick stat from that game as well. St Etienne, that's the first time that they've scored 4 goals away from home. I'll give you a guess when you think the last time they scored 4 away from home was. Just give me a year.
1983.
Quite that long ago, John. 2012. They have played 72 matches since they last scored 4 goals away from home. The last time was against Caen in 2012. So there you go. There's a stat for you. As far as the table goes, well, PSG, as we said, top of the table, 69 points, 63 goals, 12 against. Incredible. Monaco, second, 45 points. Nice, third on 39. St Etienne up to fourth. The big movers on 39 as well. Angers and Lyon make up the top 6. And at the bottom, Troyes, doomed, 11 points. Toulouse in all sorts of trouble, starting to get cut adrift now, 21 points. Montpellier just above the relegation zone on 26. Gazalec, 27. Rams on 16th on 29. Lille, 30. And you've got Bastia, Guingamp and Lorient tied in 12th on 31 points. And as far as a fixture goes to keep an eye out for, I've kind of gone for one that might not leap off the page, but I think it might be a decent watch, and that is St Etienne against Monaco on Sunday, mainly because it's second versus fourth, and after what St Etienne did this weekend, anything could happen in that game. And I should point out as well, there is a midweek Coupe de France full programme. There's games on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. The standout tie is PSG-Lyon on Wednesday. John, some news?
Lovely stuff. Yeah, give us some news. Let's go for it.
I'll rattle through this very quickly. So Troyes, they've axed another coach. There's a surprise. Claude Robin he was fired after their 4-0 defeat at Guingamp last week. The club management have discharged Claude Robin from his first team duties in a very difficult sporting context. The decision has been taken to preserve, if I can put my teeth in, the interests of everyone. A statement posted by the club's official website read, the first team will now be managed until further notice, jointly by Mohamed Badjar, Michel Padovani and Olivier Tingray, which is a 3-man crew. So Liverpool had 2 men under control once upon a time, I remember. This is a 3-man crew. There's an interesting one for you. Ezekiel Lavezzi, he's closing in on a move to China. It looks like he's going to earn €10 million a year net. Staggering. Looks like he's off to Shanghai Greenland Shenhua, apparently. So that is probably going to happen either imminently or at the end of the season. We shall wait and see for that. And a nice message from St Etienne. We'll also hear what's happened to Kurt Zouma over the weekend. They put out a message on their official website which simply said, Bien obiter de Kurt, vous souhaitons la meilleure vue, which basically means, in English, get well soon, Kurt, wishing you best wishes. So that was rather nice of them. And the final story of the week comes from Monaco's Brazilian Wallace, who broke a journalist's computer this weekend, which is quite amusing, I thought. He boots the ball basically into the stands for the fans at the end of the game. And in order to reach the top tier of the stands at the Stade Louis II, you have to boot the ball over the press box. Unfortunately, on this occasion, Wallace was a little overeager and inaccurate with his booting of the ball, and it hit the press box, and more specifically the computer of a journalist working at Course Matin, whilst aiming for the top tier stand. So unfortunately for the journalist, the computer was broken beyond all repair by Wallace. So he might get a sizable bill, methinks. So there's your amusing story of the week, and that wraps up all from Ligue 1.
Oh, I'm sure he can afford it on the wages Monaco pay, so it shouldn't be an issue.
You'd like to think so, wouldn't you? You'd like to think so.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks for that, Chris. I'll hand it back over to you.
Splendid. And as if by magic, I shall be handing it straight back to you, and let's see what has been going on as we head over to Italy and this week's Serie A. Right then, John. So, Serie A this week, what has been going on? Let's start with a thriller. Our beloved Inter, they just did it again, didn't they? Away at Hellas Verona, out of sorts all season. You just knew they'd get something from this game, didn't they? What happened?
Yeah, it's. I don't know why I picked this one to talk about. I've upset myself already. It started okay. Inter went 1-0 up. Morello with a goal. Nice, just from a corner early in the game. Everything looked good. And then apparently we completely forgot how to defend. I said last week that Inter had only conceded one headed goal of season, and that was in the Milan derby. They decided to concede 3 in this game, and that is 3 goals. Just in back-to-back as well. Verona went 3-1 up. All 3 goals from set pieces. All 3 headers. The goals from Helanda, Pisano and Inita for Verona. And we were just dreadful in the first half. The defence was just all over the shop. And credit Verona, they looked for the weaknesses and that's what they went for. Second half was much better when we fought back. Really good goal from Icardi. Perisic putting the ball through. Really good striker's finish. And then Perisic himself scoring the equaliser. There was about 10 minutes to go. We really pushed towards the end to try and get a goal. But just a really strange performance from Inter, and they've just seriously dropped off the pace now. They're in danger if they keep this form of possibly losing out on a Champions League spot, let alone fighting for the Serie A title itself. So not looking good, but decent result for Verona. However, they probably really should have actually held on for the win.
Yes, yeah, 3 goals from set pieces, wasn't it? All 3 from set pieces.
Yeah, two from a corner and 1 from a free kick. They're all good deliveries, but just bad marking, really bad marking.
Yeah, hat-trick of assists from Luca Morone, who will indeed pop up later on. Let's talk about Frosinone, who hosted the reigning champions Juventus. It was a long slog for Juve, but they did eventually do enough.
It ended up 2-0, but it certainly didn't feel like that for a long time. They had all the ball and just so many shots, but Frosinone just stayed in it for so long. Some really good defending, players throwing themselves in front of the ball, keeper making saves. Juve guilty of wasting some really clear chances, Pogba in particular. Wasted a really good one. So Juve had to wait until the 73rd minute to finally get the breakthrough. Quadrado getting on the end of a cross from Alexandro, putting them 1-0 up. Even then, Juve still were trying to get another goal because Frosinone were trying to counter when they could. They didn't actually create that many chances on the break. But in injury time, Dybala scored an absolute peach of a goal. Lovely curler from the edge of the box into the top corner. It's less of a game to talk about in terms of performance. It's just the fact that it's the 14th win in a row now for Juve. And it's the 4th time this season that a team didn't have a single shot on target against them, which is just an unbelievable stat. It's not just how good they are going forwards, it's how solid they are at the back and how they can keep the ball. They've suffered some injuries, but they seem to be coping with it fine. And you'd expect them to go and beat Frosinone, whether it's home or away, but it's still impressive, the depth of the squad and how well they're doing.
A big game awaits at the weekend, which we will touch on in a minute, but they are looking ominous. And that Dybala goal, if you haven't seen it, do check it out. Superb. What about our beloved SAS? They played at home to Palermo, who are certainly in need of points, given their season so far. How did this one end up?
It looked like it was going to start okay for Sassuolo. There was a lot of pressure and some decent shots. They've been struggling at home lately, so they wanted to put in a good performance. But it was actually Palermo took the lead. Franco Vasquez, just talking about Dybala, Vasquez was Dybala's best friend at Palermo last season. Really helped each other out. He took the lead for Palermo, and then Sas got back in the game. Defrel equalised just before the half time. A Falcinelli little flick through for Defrel's goal, and then second half Sas came out, all pressure on Palermo, and it only took a few minutes for Miseroli to score a really good header. He looked like he grew about 4 feet. It was an amazing leap, but Palermo instantly responded. Just 2 minutes after that, Vasquez did what he was doing for Dybala all season last year for Palermo, and crossed in for Djordjevic to score. Sas went on to really, really press the game, and Palermo ended up going down to 10 men. Lazar received the second yellow, but they just couldn't get past Sorrentino, who for the last 10 minutes of the game was really under siege but made some great saves. So Palermo got out of there with a point, which is a really good result for them. Sas will be disappointed, but it's an upturn in performances for the home games that have really been in bad form. So probably a decent result for both sides.
Yeah, vital points, whether they're draws or wins at this stage of the season, you just need to get something on the board. And the late game on the Sunday saw Roma host Samp. Roma seemed to be on the right track as far as results go after the reappointment of Spalletti. What ended up going on in this game?
Yeah, Spalletti's return has seen Roma change their system. They've gone to the 3-4-2-1 that he liked to play. He sort of pioneered the false nine, and he was doing that again today. In Sunday's game with Perotti as the false nine, and El Shawari and Salah either side. The Roma ran out 2-1 winners. It wasn't as clear cut as the scoreline. I mean, it's a close scoreline, but Samp were actually in the game quite well. It was Florenzi getting the first goal. He tried a little run through midfield and set up El Shawari for a shot, but the deflected shot looped up in the air, and Florenzi, not the tallest, but he leapt up and got a great headed goal in. The second goal was absolutely fantastic. Really good, intricate play around the edge of the box from Pjanic, Maicon, Salah, everyone just keeping the ball, little 1-2 passes. Eventually came into El Shawara, who just reverse flicked it over the defence, and Perotti absolutely levered it on the volley into the bottom corner. Really good finish, definitely worth checking that goal out. Samp did get one back. It was a bit of luck from it. Fernando took a shot and it deflected off Pjanic, actually sending Szczesny the wrong way. Then they did push on Samp, and they've got quite a decent record against Roma. Szczesny had to make some really good saves coming off his line to stop Cassano, and actually Mattia Cassini also hit the crossbar in the final minute of the game. So it was a little bit tighter, but the upturn in form, the change of style, the change of shape and systems really helped Roma. And Shawari and Zukanovic, the two they brought in January, it's so different from last season where they could have pushed on for the title and made the wrong signings. This January they seem to have got the right ones. So it's looking good for them. As for Samp, their problems are still in defence, and the players they've signed have not helped. The previous game, all 3 goals that they conceded were basically down to the fault of Dodo, Ranocchia and Ricky Alvarez, all 3 players from Inter Milan, who I think were my 3 picks for worst signings of January, funnily enough.
Yes.
So it looks like almost as if I know something about those 3 particular players because they're all at Inter.
I think we all know quite a lot about Ranocchia. Oh dear, yeah. Bless his heart. Indeed, and Perotti impressed me, actually. I must admit, he looks like a decent signing as well.
Yes, very good.
Was it Genoa? I think he came
Yeah, it was from Genoa, yeah.
Decent buy, that. Decent buy. Good, okay. Give us the other results and indeed the table.
Yeah, okay. Atalanta versus Empoli and Genoa versus Lazio, they were both 0-0s. Milan Udinese and Bologna Fiorentina also played at draws, but they were both 1-1s. So Fiorentina dropping points there in the title race as well. Chievo got a very good win, 2-1 away at Torino. Torino are in really bad form at the moment. They're starting to plummet down the table, not looking good for them. And their last game that I haven't spoken about is, yes, you've guessed it right, Napoli. It was only a 1-0 win away at Carpi, but guess who scored? Gonzalo Higuain. He actually took the penalty this time, and that is 24 in 24. Absolutely ridiculous form that man is in. So at the table, with Napoli's win, that keeps them top on 56, Juve on 54, and now the gap's got even bigger, back to Fiorentina in third place, are on 46, Inter on 45, Roma on 44, and Milan in 6th on 40. So the fight for the European spots is certainly heating up. Down the bottom, Verona on 15, Frosinone and Carpi both on 19, and then a gap up to Samp on 24 and Genoa on 25. So Verona actually, with the win and the draw, trying to pull themselves out of it, but I think Samp and Genoa might just be a little bit too far ahead.
Yes, I think you might be right, and I have a sneaking suspicion I know what your game of the week is going to be.
Yes, very, very easy pick. The first round of fixtures starts on Thursday. I think it's because there's European games next week. Am I right in saying?
Yes, I believe
yeah.
so.
So basically, in Italy, they actually try and help their team, so they've moved games around to help those in the Europa League. But the game of this round of fixtures is Saturday night at the J Stadium, Juventus versus Napoli. It might sound ridiculous, but this is quite possibly a title decider already in February. It really could be that important. It's just going to be huge. I'm really excited. I can't wait to watch it.
Even as a Ligue 1 aficionado, I shall be tuning in with bells on. That has just got everything written all over it. I really look forward to it. Anything else in Italy this week? Any hirings, any firings, any bizarre news?
No, there was in the midweek fixtures there was some horrible scenes of Lazio fans racially abusing Koulibaly for Napoli, and the game was suspended for 3 minutes. So I actually got some nice news because out of that, this weekend the Napoli fans all wore Koulibaly masks in their game away at Carpi, and they all had signs up that I don't know the Italian for it. I'm sorry, but it basically translated as "We are all Koulibaly," which I thought was really nice, and the Carpi fans all applauding him as well. And the other one is my lovely favourite manager Roberto Donadoni, the Bologna manager. He found out that Mario Quinilita, the Milan legend from the '60s side, who passed away last year, he left his family with some debts that they couldn't afford to pay. And as soon as Roberto Donadoni found out, he wrote a cheque and paid off all the debts and wiped them clean. So just two nice stories from Serie A for a change.
Yeah,
very good.
Very nice stories.
And also in in response to the Lazio fans and the horrible things that they'd done to Koulibaly, they banned some fans from the Curva Nord and closed it off, and there was no complaints from the club for once, which is a nice thing. Normally they sort of argue about these things, but they were like, no, that was stupid. They shouldn't have done that. They deserve the punishment. It's fine.
Yeah,
so
it's very
all good news for once.
Very swift action, wasn't it? Taken and done swiftly and concisely.
Yeah, well done by the referee as well, because he took the players off the pitch for about 5 minutes, which I don't think refs they don't do that enough. So
no, here. Okay, super. Right, well, just before we leave Europe's elite then, I'm going to just bring everybody up to speed with a couple of other leagues. We haven't done this for a little while, so we'll have a little trip around a couple of other hotspots in Europe as we check out the best of the rest. Right, I've picked 3 leagues out this week and just have a quick update on where things are. We're going to start in Belgium, and Club Bruges are the new leaders of the Pro League. They got a 1-0 victory over Ghent, the previous leaders. It was first versus second on Sunday, and a Reveliov penalty on 60 minutes got them the points. So Bruges are leading the league from Ghent. Anderlecht, who everyone would think would be top, are actually 4 points back on 48 points. They could only manage a 2-2 draw away at Mechelen this weekend at Achimpong with 2 goals for Anderlecht. And just looking at the table to put everybody in perspective, KV Oostend, Genk and Sporting Charleroi make up the top 6. Zulte Waregem are 7th, and Standard Liège, who a lot of people will remember the famous old name of European football, they're languishing down in 8th. They lost at home this week to St Truden, and Nick Proschwitz, who Drew might remember formerly of Paderborn fame and indeed Hull City, got the 2 goals coming from behind as well in St Truden. So that was a good result for them. Westerlo are bottom in the relegation spot, with Mouscron Paraluas and OH Leuven making up the bottom 2 places below, in front of them, with Beveren and Mechelen also in trouble. So that's Belgium. Skipping on to the Liga NOS in Portugal. Benfica, they just carry on, don't they? 5-0 victors over Belenenses this weekend. A hat-trick for Konstas Mitroglou and another 2 goals for Jonas, the Brazilian, whose scoring record is outrageous at the moment. So a 5-0 victory for them leaves them top of the table, tied with Sporting Club de Portugal, Sporting Lisbon, whichever you prefer. They surprisingly were held tonight in a 0-0 draw against Rio Ave, who are down in 7th. So a real surprising result that I think most people had Sporting pegged for a victory. What's even more surprising, though, is that Porto, they really have fallen away. They are now 6 points behind Benfica and Sporting. They're all over the shop. They lost at home last night to Aruca, who had barely even scored a goal against Porto, let alone won a game. Volta Gonzalez scored directly from kickoff. 2 passes in behind the defence, and he put them in front. Abubakar, the former Lorient man, equalised in the 14th minute, and you thought, yeah, normal service resolved. But, however, it did not finish that way. Volta Gonzalez, that man again, popped up 66th minute after a defensive error and smashed in what would prove to be the winner. And Aruca, who are they're actually 8th. They're not a terrible side, but their away record has been poor. They come away with the points. So As I say, Benfica and Sporting tied at the top, Porto third, Braga fourth, Vitória Guimarães fifth, and Paços de Ferreira sixth. And at the bottom, Tondela, I think they're doomed 10 points. Academica also down there on 18. Boa Vista Nacional and Maritimo are the other bottom sides down that end of the table. And finally, let's have a little look at the Swiss League, and that's resumed this weekend. Basel, they just continue powering on there. They're clear at the top of the table. 3-0 victory over Luzern. A goal in that game for Delgado from the penalty spot. Stefan and Bjarnsen also with goals. They have 46 points and they're clear of Grasshopper, who are second on 34 points. And they drew with Young Boys, who were second and third respectively going into that game. It ended 1-1. Horal putting Young Boys in front and Canberra equalising for Grasshopper. So that's the top three. Luzern and Sion make up the top five. Zurich bottom with Vaduz and Lugano only 1 and 2 points respectively above those two at the bottom. So that's where the Swiss League is looking, or where it stands at the moment. So there's a quick trip round the rest of Europe just to keep everybody in perspective on how things are going. So let's move on then, and we shall have a little look at what's going on as far as Hipsters Choice goes this week. We have decided to take a trip into Italy to find our Hipsters Choice this week. So, who's it going to be? This week we have decided to go for Fiorentina's Federico Bernardeschi. So, what do we know about Fiorentina's Fernando Bernardeschi? Well, he was born on February the 16th, 1994, which makes him 21 years of age. He's Italian, he's 6 foot dead and 165 pounds. He wears the number 10 for Fiorentina. He's an attacking midfielder with a left foot, or generally left-footed. He wears the Nike Magista Obra boots. And he was born in Carrara in Italy, a Tuscan town approximately 100 kilometres northwest of Florence, and it's almost equidistant between Genoa and Florence, and it's also noted for its quarries, which produce the famous white and blue grey Carrara marble. So there you go, there's a fact for you. Bernardeschi joined Fiorentina, or La Viola's youth system at the age of 9 in 2003, where his talent was very quickly all recognised as he moved through the ranks, and for the 13-14 season he was loaned out to FC Crotone in Serie B, scoring 12 goals in 39 appearances and helping his team to make the playoffs. He returned to Fiorentina in 2014-15, however a series of injuries, including a fractured ankle, resulted in a few competitive appearances over the course of the season, and in fact, it was only 7 appearances in the league that year and only 3 in the Europa League. However, he did score on his European debut in a Europa League match versus Guingamp in September of 2014. He notched his first Serie A goal for Fiorentina in the last match of the 14-15 season, a 3-0 victory over Chievo. A rumoured move to Juventus in the off-season was silenced when Bernardeschi signed a 4-year contract extension with Fiorentina until 2019. And on August 2nd, 2015, he staked his claim for the starting place at the Stadio Artemio Franchi under new coach Paulo Sousa with 2 goals in the first 11 minutes of a pre-season friendly against, of all teams, Barcelona. He was actually awarded the number 10 shirt at the start of the 15-16 season, which had previously been worn by the likes of Giancarlo Antononi and Roberto Baggio, and indeed Rui Costa. And on being given the number 10 shirt, Bernardeschi said to La Nazzonine, the Italian newspaper, "It was a bit of a special choice. I've been at the Viola for many years and I wanted to try wearing that number. I want to bear it with honour, without presumption. Having the number 10 on my back, it's a source of pride." While the youngster might struggle with the weight of expectation on such an iconic club shirt, he's flourished, especially in the Europa League, where he scored 3 goals in 5 appearances, has a 90.6 pass success rate, and was awarded man of the match twice. And although his league statistics aren't quite as good, which is 16 starts, 20 appearances in Serie A, 1 goal, 3 assists, and 5 yellows, 82% pass success rate, and 1.6 shots per game, he has become a staple for Paulo Sousa. Furthermore, he's been rotated through a variety of positions as Sousa tries to find his most effective formation, and he's been used as an inside forward in the 3-4-2-1 system, and also as a left wing back more recently. With the number 10 shirt and an impressive dribbling ability, the inevitable comparisons with Robbie Baggio have made. However, at nearly 6 feet, Bernardeschi is more of a physical presence and a powerful shot, leading to some say that he could be more like Christian Vieri than Roberto Baggio. No pressure there. Perhaps most impressively, and especially at this young age, and his vision and tactical awareness of the player, and the fact that he has adapted to whatever position Sousa has thrown him in at, showing great maturity and indeed flexibility. And people have struggled to point out the glaring gaps in Bernardeschi's game, even around tactical awareness and mental strength, which is impressive for a young player. However, sharper passing, crossing, and being more clinical in the final third are things he could work on. And finally, he has played at all levels of the Italian national game up to the under-21s. He's made 7 appearances for the U21s, scoring 3 goals, and he took part in the 2015 UEFA European Under-21 Championships. So, John, I'm looking at you then for a little bit more on this mercurial talent. Now, we made this decision, and you can confirm this to the listeners, we made this decision midweek last week, and then he went and got a goal for us, didn't he, at the weekend? It was almost like we predicted it. So what do you make of this young talent?
Yeah, I mean, you covered it pretty well in the notes there. He's a really exciting player. It's interesting what you say about his position, because it really hasn't been decided. He does prefer to play sort of the right wing and coming in on his left foot, but he can genuinely play anywhere across the front three. Fiorentina obviously played that formation where they have wing backs, and he's played as a right wing back because he is. Strangely, for someone who is so creative and an offensive player, he's quite happy to put in the work rate to get back and really help the team out. The biggest thing for me will be whether he gets a chance to go to the Euros, because if he can continue being as important as he is for Fiorentina, then there's no reason why he couldn't get in that Italian squad. Because the sort of the forward positions aren't really taken up as much as with big names as sort of like midfield and defence is sort of very solid and picked. So he's got a really big chance to get himself an appearance at that tournament. But yeah, I mean, he's got everything. The one thing he's definitely got as well is a terrible haircut. So it kind of goes along with every other number 10 that Fiorentina have had, because Baggio's was a bit of a peach. I know it was back in the day, but even then it was bad.
Yes, yeah, it's a haircut I have sported myself over the years. However, I would have to say it's probably back in the 90s that I sported that, so we can forgive him. What's just out of interest, what do you think his chances are of making this European Championship side? And if he does go, do you think he'll be a player that could potentially pop up as a star?
It's really difficult to know, because the sort of the players that have come back that now might be in contention, like especially someone like Ciro Immobile, although obviously he plays a striker, it's hard to know whether that means that other players like an Insigne, who might have played behind a striker, get pushed out wide. El Shaarawy coming back into the league as well, I'm sure Conte will have taken notice of that. So I hope he goes. I mean, I hope he goes only if he's going to play. I know sometimes people say that getting the experience of a big tournament is good as well, but I think getting game time is what really matters, and being taken to a tournament and not playing is kind of a bit of a disappointment. I know, obviously England did it with Theo Walcott at a very young age, and it didn't really work out for him. But there's some really exciting young Italian players. But there's competition, because Berardi also plays that side. You've got Florenzi, who can play up there as well. So Candreva, there's more experienced players ahead of him. But there's the way that Italy play, and they sort of shuffle their team about. The fact that he's so flexible and can play as a wing back or as a number 10 or on the left, it means that he might get his chance in the team.
I think he's definitely one to watch, and he's more than welcome in our hipster community for our Hipsters Choice. So do have a look at some of his highlights. Something I'm going to start doing actually on the Twitter account in the coming weeks is posting a few little YouTube videos or goal snippets from players that we feature in the Hipsters Choice. So if you haven't heard of these players, then A, why not? Damn you. And B, do check out the videos, have a look at the highlights, and follow some of these players, because they are truly talented. So super job. Thank you very much, John. Let's move on then before we look at some questions from you lovely listeners. It's time for me to pick this week's team of the week. Right then, team of the week. This week we're lining up in a kind of a 4-5-1 formation. That's roughly what I've picked anyway, so make of it what you will. So let's have a look at the team. In goal, I've gone for Aurelio Gomez from Watford. He had a pretty amazing week, stunning performances against Chelsea midweek in the 0-0 draw. And unfortunately, Watford were beaten by Spurs by a 1-0, but he had some fantastic saves on his return to White Hart Lane. Christophe Jallet takes the right back spot, as John mentioned earlier on, scored an absolute beauty for Lyon in their 3-0 victory over Angers, and then went on to set up Ghezal's second as well. Good day for him. Speaking of good days, Robert Huth scoring 2 goals from headers versus Manchester City in that top-of-the-table clash at the Etihad Stadium. A superb centre-back, really driving force. Georg Niedermeyer for Stuttgart, as Drew was mentioning earlier on, set up did Davies goal and scored the third himself. A really good performance from him, real leader by example. And Maxwell at PSG, once again, he's made the team the week before, he's back in this week. Superb cross for Zlatan to open the scoring against Marseille in the Classique, and he also went on to make a goal line clearance, which was equally crucial at 1-1. Aston Villa's Idrissa Gueye, you wouldn't expect to see an Aston Villa player in this team of the week, but he's made it in. Easily his best performance for Villa in the 2-0 victory at home to Norwich. Very dominant in midfield, reminiscent of the form that got him the move. Oussama Tanane, the St Etienne winger, scored the second, set up the third in that 4-1 victory away at Bordeaux. Quite the turn up there. It was his best form for many a week. And Floyd Aite making it an all-Liga wide man position for Bastia. He scored both goals in the 2-0 victory over Troyes, and his form is going to be vital to keep the Corsicans head above water. Koke of Atletico Madrid, he makes it into the number 10 role. 2 assists in the 3-1 comeback victory over Eibar, certainly back to his very best form on the day. And Christian Gentner also joins him with Stuttgart. He scored, assisted and cleared off the line. That's quite a day for anybody's performance, so fair play to him. And up front, it's that man again, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He gets the nod, the goal and the assist for the winner against Marseille in the Classique. He is just superb, and look, it's just going to be fantastic to watch him go from strength to strength, hopefully in the Champions League with PSG. As far as the substitute bench, Wesley Houdet of Lazio are rock solid at the heart of Lazio's defence. He's going to be vital in Lazio's charge back up the table. They got a 0-0 draw. Andreas Christensen from John's Gladbach scored 2 goals from centre-back. He's getting better by the week, the man on loan from Chelsea. Corentin Tolisso of Lyon scored a third versus Angers and really ran the midfield, and his form is going to be vital for Lyon as they look to move up the standings. Luca Marone, we mentioned for Verona, he hit a hat-trick of assists from dead ball situations and the architect in the 3-3 versus Inter Milan. Juan Cuadrado, Juventus, scored the opener away at Frosinone. Absolutely back to his best in this game. He's been a bit quiet most of the season, but he was very, very good on that wide right position. Charles of Malaga, that Tom mentioned earlier on, he's going to be vital to get them their goals, and he got a goal and an assist versus Getafe. He seems to be banging forward at the moment in a 3-0 victory, so he's going to prove crucial. And rounding off this week's team of the week is Alexander Soderlund of St Etienne. He scored, he set up a goal, and indeed contrived to miss a penalty. Quite the week. So there we go, that's this week's team of the week all wrapped up again. As usual, I'll post it on our Twitter account. Have a look, see what you think, let us know what your views are. So there we go. Let's take it to the listeners then, boys and girls, as we take your questions in this week's Onion Bag. Right then, we've got quite a few questions this week, which is greatly appreciated from all of our listeners. Obviously, the more questions we get, the shorter the answers we have to provide, because we are conscious of time. We don't want to bore people. So let's jump straight in. Tom, I'm looking at you. Let's start with Liam Edwards, who's Liam PLE Edwards on Twitter. He says, what is going on with Espanyol?
Oh, don't. No, it's not been good. The form's awful, defending's awful. Tonight's was awful. To be honest, we didn't buy the right players in January. We've an injured Caicedo is our own proper striker, and we should have brought back up for that. Gerrard's playing there at the moment, but he's not the right player to play there. Asensio has dropped off slightly, not the integral player in the team that he was in the first half of the season. And we've got no real width and pace. Hernan Perez is probably the fastest guy we've got, and he's not doing the business, and defensively we're awful. Goalkeeping wise, Arlauskis has brought in and done terribly, and Paul Lopez, who should be starting games because he's a better goalkeeper, and we brought in a defender in Duarte from Club Brugge, but he scored an own goal in his debut against Real Madrid, so that shows you how promising he looks at the moment. So hopefully we should be going to the stronghold that is the Mestalla and Valencia next weekend, and we can get a result.
Yeah. Times are tough right now. Times are tough. One for you, John. This is from Jimmy at @NN_Guna. Would Icardi be an automatic start for any/most other national teams, being stuck behind Messi, Aguero, Higuain, and Tevez blows? What do you make?
It's, to be fair, that Argentinian side is absolutely ridiculous. So who did you name there? Tevez, Higuain, Messi,
Aguero.
You got Aguero. You've now got Dybala. You've got Angel Di Maria somewhere to put in the forward line as well. It's obscene the amount of talent they've got. I think Icardi in pretty much. I mean, you look for the European teams. Spain have Diego Costa. They don't really have. I mean, they've got young upcoming players, I suppose, but they don't really have a star one other than Costa. England have got. I mean, you've got Wayne Rooney, whose form is starting to pick up now, but it's certainly not been great this season. Other than that, you've got to look to youngsters like Harry Kane and people. France, I suppose, is the one European nation that's okay, but yeah, most teams he's straight in there ahead. It's unfortunate for him, but it's the country he wants to play for, and the only good thing, I suppose, is that those players are closer to the end of their career, where he's only 22, I think, Icardi. So he's got plenty of time to get in the appearances. I certainly hope to see him playing for Argentina more often in the future.
Whether he'll be at Inter is open to debate at the end of the season, of course.
Yeah,
we shall
that's
see. Drew, my good friend Pigman J. Hankenstein, God bless him. Hertha equipped to compete in Europe next season while maintaining league form, or currently overachieving?
Oh man, that's actually a really tough one. I don't necessarily think they're overachieving. I don't think you need a ton of players of qualities throughout your side. I think you just need players who have belief and want to work hard to see out results, and they do that. And honestly, that's all you need in Europe. You just look at if you look at Ghent right now in Champions League, the fact that they made the next round kind of can be a sort of something to follow for her for next season. I think they'll make Europe, but honestly, I think if they want to still challenge in Bundesliga next season, while sort of trying to at least give a decent showing in Champions League next season, should they make it, they would have to spend in the summer. I think that's going to be the thing. I think their Bundesliga form might suffer considering the extra with the workload through Champions League. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely achieved so far. So I can't deny that. One from Jens of Shaheen, one of many. So let's have a go at this one. This is for me. Ousmane Dembele or George Kevin Nkudu, or not Nkudu, as he was pronounced on BT Sport last night. Thank you, chaps. Who will move to England/Spain first? I'm going to answer this very quickly and say that Nkudu, for me, is more likely to move purely because Ousmane Dembele, whilst his talent is huge, I think he's more likely to be at Rennes for at least another season, whereas Nkudu, for me, is ripe for the picking, particularly with Marseille usually tending to sell their high-profile assets for big money. As for England or Spain, I think Nkudu suits England more, but if a Spanish side, for example, kind of a mid-table side, come in, maybe a Sevilla, possibly, but I think he'd be more suited for England. Let's have another one for John, because John, you've got loads this week. It's Serie A heavy. Frank McClintock at Cashod. Can Napoli depend on Higuain for an entire season? And he's got another question, which I'll ask at the same time. Can Bacca and Niang give Milan the last Champions League spot?
Well, I mean, Napoli thus far have relied on Higuain, so yeah, I don't see why not. They do have other people in the team who can score. But yeah, there's the risk that if he gets injured or if his form dips, there could be problems with the team. You'll find out how good they are this weekend when they play Juventus, because that game's going to be huge. As for Bacca and Niang, Niang scored. He scored in the 1-1 this weekend. Whether they'll get the Champions League spots, I don't know. They've just suffered an injury to Kuchka. I'm not sure how long he's out for, but that's a big loss in their midfield. But those two are certainly playing very well up front together, so they're going to give it a good go. And if Inter keep dropping, then that's another team they can leapfrog. But Roma being back in the mix now is going to make it a lot harder. But they're a good front pairing.
Agreed. And another question for you while I've got you there. from Janzeb, is there a better midfield duo in Europe than Alan and Jorginho?
Oh, I mean, there probably are, because I mean, you could look at Bayern Munich and say if they play, I mean, they change the team about a lot, but they can play Alaba next to Thiago Alcantara, which is just ridiculous. Yes, you get those sort of noises from Tom and from Drew as well. He's being very quiet at the moment, but there's the way they work and what they do specifically for that team is very impressive, and it goes largely unnoticed because the way that Napoli score their goals, and obviously lots of the focus is on Higuain and Callahan, Hamsik, Insigne. So those two really make the team tick, and give the other players the platform to play their exciting football. So I get his point, but no, I think there are better midfielders pairings, but like PSG obviously have got a great trio in midfield, but those two in particular work so well together, and Sarri's just got that combination, that chemistry perfect.
Agree. I really like what I see. Another one for you, Tom. Akib, who's at Akib_alias. What is the future hold, or what does the future hold for Valencia and Gary Neville? We touched on this earlier. Be brief, but be thorough.
Yeah. I think Gary Neville will stay to the end of the season. I think he should turn things around. If I looked at their fixtures, they got Barca and Real away, but they've got Atletico, Bilbao and Villarreal at home. So it does bode well for their fixtures coming up in the future. And in terms of who they're going to bring in, I think you're going to look at the likes of Rafa Benitez, is probably being talked to, but Manuel Pellegrini is also another one. But I don't think they'll get relegated. There's just too much quality in that side compared to the teams around them for them to go down.
Agreed. And, well, sticking with you, actually, Ahmad Nada at Gizaguna also asks, can Valencia actually get relegated, or is it too late? So in other words, are they too far gone? But you think they'll be all right overall?
I think they'll be okay. They can get relegated. There's no question about that, but I don't think they will.
Fair enough. John, back to you. Ahmed also wants to know, can Napoli hold on and win the league? And I'm also going to throw in AJ's question here, which is at UF Guna AJ. He says, would be curious to hear some thoughts or takes on Juve Napoli at the weekend. So you can give us a bit of a prediction how you think that might go, maybe.
Trying to predict that game's horrendous. Juve have lost some players. Caceres is out for the rest of the season. I know people will say he doesn't play that much, but he is quite important because he can cover anywhere in defence. Khedira is also out injured, and Juve looks at their best when he's in the midfield with Marquisio and Paul Pogba. I think the individual talent of Dybala and Pogba, if they perform on the day, will just edge it to Juventus. It'll be interesting because Koulibaly has been one of the best defenders this season as well, so he's going to have a really tough time against that Juve front line. And I'm not sure whether Mandzukic is also fit and available for the game yet. He picked up an injury as well, so he might be out. So it could be Morata up front, which is not a huge loss, obviously. But it's going to be a really good game. I'll just give Juve the edge because they are at home, and I don't want to. I'll word it this way: they sometimes get decisions in their favour, especially when they're playing at home.
Outrageous. Yes, I agree.
But even if Juve win, that only puts them 1 point in front of Napoli. So the title race is still on between those two.
Agreed. And if you haven't watched Italian football, or if you've not been a fan for a while, do watch this game. I'll say this right now, if there isn't goals and incidents in that game and we come on to this podcast next week and it's 0-0, I will resign on the spot. There you go. Said it here first. I'm just convinced. Right, another question from Jen Zeb. He's such a question whore. With Cavani most likely leaving and Ibra's age, are PSG in need of a few massive, in capital letters, signings, etc., i.e. Benzema, Mahrez, or trust in you? Straightforward answer to this one, Janzeb. PSG have got loads of money and they like a big signing. You saw Di Maria arrive last season. Obviously, Ibra was a marquee signing at the time. Cavani was a pretty big signing at the time. I think they will buy a couple of younger players. along the lines of a Serge Aurier. I think they do need some reinforcements. They've also bought Kazawa as well, so they're pretty well stocked. They could do with a new centre-half. Thiago Silva isn't going to be around forever. I expect them to go big for a centre-half. I expect Cavani to probably move on, as you say, so I do think they'll go big. I'm going to go back to what I said a few months ago now it seems. I still think a certain Cristiano Ronaldo will be wearing a PSG shirt next season, particularly in light of what's happened with Real Madrid's transfer ban being suspended. Watch this space. Another quick question here. Curtis at CLG_the_BFA. Kind of a statement more than anything else, but he says, how does one become a football hipster? The dedication seems unending. I'm just going to give this one quickly to Tom. Tom, obviously we class ourselves as football hipsters more out of sort of jovial terms than fact, but how do you find watching so many games, and how do you find building your knowledge base?
It's strange, really, because obviously I started off watching the Premier League mostly, but La Liga's grown on me, and I'll watch more extended highlights, and if a game's on, because of my Sky Sports subscription, La Liga's on there, so I've been gradually watching that. So if I'm just bored at a time, if there's a game on, I'll watch it, and I watch as I said, all the highlights. So you just gradually learn, and obviously talking to you guys all the time, we discuss football all the time, so you learn about all the different leagues. That's the best I can describe it in the shortest amount of time, really.
It's great fun. We put this podcast together really because we wanted a platform to talk like we do on WhatsApp and other platforms. It's just great fun to share knowledge. And trust me, there are people out there that know a lot more than we do, but we enjoy doing what we do.
I can't say the missus enjoys the amount of football I watch.
Same. Yeah, well, I say missus, but more like everyone around me, I think is probably more accurate. Right, final question. This comes from Ross, who is indeed part of our breakfast crew, and do listen to the breakfast pod. We'll mention that in a second. His question is, and it's a goodie, if you had to pick one player from your respective leagues who you see Pep going after once he's appointed Manchester City manager, who would you pick and why? Drew, I'm going to come to you first, and before I ask you to answer this, I'm just going to give you another stat from Janzeb. Julian Weigl has completed 1,354 passes this season, more than any other under-23 player playing in Europe's top 5 leagues. Now, I don't want to influence your decision. I just thought I'd chuck that one at you.
Well, awesome stat. I actually didn't know that because I'm a Dortmund lover, but actually Weigl is one of the players I could see him going after. Pep's going to want to come in, and he's going to want to still keep that possession-based game, and Weigl has been integral with Dortmund changing to a possession-based style of play more often than not this season. That's why he has so many completed passes. He actually fits that mold that Pep will want. However, if Pep doesn't go for Weigl, I could see Thiago Alcantara leaving Bayern and following Pep to Man City, which he went to Bayern in the first place because of Pep. He loves working with Pep. He worked with Pep at Barca, so I wouldn't be surprised if Alcantara actually left again, followed Pep to City. So one of those two players.
Interesting. John, pick us somebody from Serie A that Pep might fancy.
I was going to say a forward because there's quite a few obvious ones, but the one thing City have got that probably he likes is the players that are already there. So in terms of defenders, I was sort of leaning towards Daniele Regani, actually, would be one. He's young, Pep can mould him, he's good on the ball, which he likes those sort of players who can play out from the back, and I think he's versatile enough that he could even play midfield if, and with the right coaching, and he's not really getting the game time at Juve. It'd be interesting, but I think that's more of a concern in the City squad for Pep than perhaps the forward line, because when you've got Aguero and David Silva, they're all players certainly capable of playing Pep's brand of football.
Very true. Tom, who would you go for from La Liga?
I've gone for James Rodriguez to replace an ageing David Silva, simply because he's not getting the complete amount of minutes he wants to, because Zidane loves Isco at the moment, and I could see that happening with a big sum of money coming in for him.
Interesting. And I've gone along the same lines as John, because I think a defender is more of a priority for City. I almost went Corentin Tolisso from Lyon, who I think could do an excellent job in holding midfield, but I've actually gone for another Lyon player. I've gone for Samuel Umtiti. Big, strong, only 22 years of age. It wouldn't cost a fortune. Not that that's an issue for Manchester City anyway, but if you're looking for a partner who could potentially partner Vincent Kompany, who could learn, who could adapt, who could very much fit the physical style of the Premier League, he's also exceptionally good on the ball. He's very, very decent at bringing the ball out from the back. Very much a sort of player that Pep could mould. I would compare it to what he's done with Jerome Boateng, and I think that Umtiti is a good enough player under the right coaching to be adapted into that sort of role. So he would be my choice. That's a really good question, Ross. Very, very good. Thank you very much for that. Right, that's all the questions for this week. So thank you ever so much to everyone that sent us a question. It's really, really good to have the interaction with listeners. And before we wrap up today, I just want to give a couple of quick mentions. Firstly, we've had a couple more iTunes reviews. We had one from 78 Swain, which I think is our friend Swainy. Excellent football podcast. Brilliant insight of European football, especially from the bearded pirate. Flattery will get you everywhere, Paul. Thank you. He gave us a 5-star rating. Thank you. Ken the Cat. What a legend. Very informative. I learn something new each time. Good job. Thank you very much, Ken the Cat. Meow. And Rocky7 the best. This is an excellent football podcast. What are you waiting for? Go listen and subscribe now. Thank you very, very much for those. They're really, really kind. And as we always say, if you've got 5 minutes, it means the world to us. It gives us an opportunity to reach a larger audience. And you don't have to write hours and hours of essays, just literally a 5-star rating, a brief line about what you like. It would mean the world to us. And also on our YouTube page, please feel free to comment on the videos if they're not taken down. Thanks YouTube for that. I am reliably informed the breakfast pod from last week has gone back up, and we also recorded one last night. Myself, Simon Collins and Ross did a breakfast show last night focusing on all the weekend's Premier League action. That is available for your ears now. Do give that a listen. And finally, we have some very big interview announcements. Tom, your interview is happening tomorrow. Just remind the listeners who you're speaking to.
Yep, I am interviewing the Sky Sports La Liga commentator John Driscoll, who also hosts their La Liga podcast, our rival. I don't know what we're going to do there, but I'll get some insight from him about how he feels La Liga's going, and that will be out on Thursday, am I right in saying?
That is the plan, yes indeed, yeah, subject to the world not falling apart or hurricanes blowing us away.
Probably will.
And John, myself and yourself, we are sitting down with somebody who's very high profile in the sporting media world. Who are we speaking to tomorrow?
We are speaking to Mina Rizuki, which should be a very interesting interview. Lovely lady that covers Serie A mainly, but also good knowledge on Bundesliga, La Liga, works many different outlets with the BBC, ESPN, big websites all across the world. So going to be very interesting. Also, I think she does fashion, so we can ask some of those really key modelling and fashion questions as well, can't we, Kris?
Yeah, we're going to get John wearing some sort of flat cap and fashionable, stylish coat. And,
This is why we need the reviews, because I need to build my ego up, listeners. So make sure you mention me in those.
Absolutely, yeah, it should be good though. And the final bit of business: Drew's Hall of Fame blog will return this week. If you missed the breakfast pod, do go and have a listen. But we did mention on it we had some problems with this video being taken out on YouTube, so we had a lot of issues last week with tech stuff. So we've decided to move the Hall of Fame or give it a rest last week. It will return this Friday with the scheduled Alexi Lalas, wasn't it, Drew?
No, it's
no,
different.
sorry,
I changed it. I couldn't bring myself to do it because I hate the man. Can't do it. Won't do it to myself.
Who did you pick in
It's
the
going
end?
to be Jari Litmanen.
Ah, superb. So that'll be worth a read.
Finnish legend.
Oh, yeah.
Indeed.
And speaking of worth a read, I've got 3 quick apologies to make. Matthew Shaw, David Body, I hope that's how you pronounce it. That's how it's written. And Fred Thurabin. You all sent emails, and I've been ploughing through the emails and checking through things, and I finally found all the things you sent me, and I massively apologise. We had the email from Fred was just about the Women's Super League. He sent us an excellent blog detailing and previewing all the teams, managers, players, everything. Fred, that will go on our website. We're editing it very, very soon. That will go up very soon. Also, David sent us, he was lucky enough to go to the FIFA Under-20 World Cup. He sent us his team of the World Cup. So that will also be published very soon. So watch this space, David. And the biggest apology of all has to go to Matthew Shaw, who hasn't actually replied yet. So I'm hoping I haven't offended him. But he sent us an email way back in January. I do apologise, Matthew. He wrote us a short blog on Polish football, complete with 2 excellent pictures of him visiting a couple of grounds. He's from sunny Lancashire, and he supports Bolton Wanderers, and his favourite European team is Benfica, and he requested a hipster handshake for Benfica, so they are his. So we will be posting that blog as well. So again, Matthew, I know you follow us now, so massive apologies for not getting back to you sooner. That was terrible of me, but I promise I will be checking the emails moving forward. So thank you ever so much for those. We'll get those done. Right, that is everything. You can now enjoy our new theme music. As you probably would have noticed, we've changed the music just to avoid those nasty copyright people. So rest in peace, Metallica, from this pod. It's a sad, sad day. I'm sorry. But enjoy the music. And all that remains to be said from me is thank you to my guests, as usual, to Tom, to Drew, and to John. Thank you very much for your time, gentlemen.
Cheers, Chris.
Cheers, Chris.
And I will say those immortal words to keep your beard strong and your glasses trendy. We will speak to you soon with interviews, with breakfast pods, and with all sorts of goodies. Check us out at the FH Podcast, and we will speak to you very soon.
Maxwell toujours pour frapper le corner. Oh, quel geste! Quel geste! L'égalisation de Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Andres Iniesta, se anima Andres. Andres tocó la evolución de Neymar. Messi. Versucht alles aus sich rauszuholen. Verfolgt von Schmelzer. Müller. Vorbei an Weidenfeller. Müller. Bayern München ist Pokalsieger.
Che può battere Insigne con il destro a giro. Adelante. Favoloso. Si gonfia la rete. Favoloso.